on October 16th, 23, and 6 we have at the town hall. A motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Any discussion on the agenda? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We have the minutes of the regular meeting on October 2nd, 2023. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes that were presented?
No.
If there's no one, do we have a motion to approve and second?
Second.
No further discussion, all in favor of approving the minutes as presented on October 2nd, 2023, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? All right. Okay, so we have budget library, would you like to go, Michelle? Okay.
You can put them down if they want
Yeah.
to. I made copies of the pro forma budget for everybody, so.
So this one,
Yep,
And
and then, so I made copies of the pro forma budget for all of you, and then I made one copy of sort of the breakdown of what we did last year, what we're planning to do for the rest of this year and then next year in terms of the building. So that's one of our biggest expenses right now. And then this is a copy for you of the building assessment that we had in terms of energy efficiency, plus also infrastructure and maintenance. So we had somebody come down, and so this is a full report. I thought maybe it'd be good for y'all to have a copy of that too, just
Okay.
on record.
great, thank you.
But I just made one copy, that's why I wasn't using a whole bunch of paper.
Yep.
So what is it most helpful, for us to go over for you? What do you want to,
Here's what, what you like to what you want. Yeah.
okay, that's what I figured, but I just want to make sure. So we are, I think we're at, yeah, we're definitely at 7,500 now, and we're asking to go to 8,500. And this is almost completely due to the work that we're doing on the building. We had that report done in August, and as we sort of already knew, there's been a lot of deferred maintenance, and and the board is now doing the due diligence to take care of it. So just very briefly, in fiscal year 2023, we completed the interior painting of the circulation room and the reading room, and insulated the basement. And the only reason we were able to insulate the basement is the money that Liz Bankowski directed toward the library when she retired from the board of the Wyndham Foundation. They gave us a grant, and then we used that grant money to go forth and raise money for heat pumps. But when we did the inspection, when we had the assessment done, they told us the energy efficiency, they told us that the building wasn't even close to tight enough to have heat pumps work at all. So we're working away on insulating the basement, the 2 attics, and then taking care of the rest of the deferred maintenance. It turns out that we may need to have the asphalt roof reshingled as well. It's probably done maybe almost 30 years ago. It's not even clear when it was last done. So, and of course that will impact any insulation we need to have done in the attic underneath. So for the rest of this fiscal year, we have enough money from the capital campaign that because Liz wanted us to raise an additional matching amount and Liz's amount to probably completely finish insulating both attics. It will depend upon what the cost of everything when we put it out to bid. But we should have enough to do, but we still need to do in 2025, the roof. The porch is showing some real issues. There's a rotted board on the porch, and that's causing the slats as you enter in the door, right at the door, to buckle up, which is a safety issue coming in and out of the library. And then we have a fire escape door, which doesn't close properly, and it has rot all around it on the 2nd floor, which is the only exit out, only door out. That has to be taken care of because that's also a safety issue. And then there's some rot and some peeling on the southern side of the building, paint and that sort of stuff. Well, Kathleen and I were talking about it when we met Monday, and we were saying, we're glad we have this report from Burlington, but it feels almost a little overwhelming to us to be dealing with a lot of the building issues. But this board has got a great plan for working through it little bit by little bit. And we are very fortunate to have the money from Liz and then the responding donations from the town, from the people in the town to get us started on finishing up all of the installation. And then we'll be able to come back around and look at heat pumps again. And it's unclear whether we might have to go to grant money to the state. There is apparently some grant money that's going to be coming down the pipe to the Department of Libraries in terms of doing infrastructure, but that hasn't been determined yet. So we would definitely be applying for that for heat pumps if we get the building tightened up enough. But right now, we're looking, even without heat pumps, we're looking at insulating the 2 attics, which we think we can handle with no additional funds. But then we've got the porch, the fire escape door, and then the painting in the back of the building so we don't have additional rot there. And then some other minor things, like
We recommend like adding, switching out windows, little white little assessment.
yeah,
Screen costs.
we're losing a lot of heat through that, but that's very expensive to do. And then the other thing is that when the Vermont League of Cities and Towns assessment was done, they really would like us to address a number of electrical issues, and then sort of an alert system in case the building were to catch on fire, which we've never had before. And so we haven't even begun to deal with that yet. I know when we had the inspection done, he told us there might be a little bit of state grant money available for that, but we're still trying to find a certified electrician to come and take a look at it and get that taken care of. So it's building right now, trying to keep that historic building in good repair and get it tightened up even more in terms of energy efficiency. Like I reported last year, we are having great result from the donation of the 1.5 of solar power from the solar site in Cambridge Fort. He brought down our electric bill. It was never that high, but he brought it down from about 55 to 60 a month down to 23, 24. So if we ever can get tight enough to have heat pumps working there, that's great that we have that solar 1.5 that's been donated to us, and that feeds into Green Mountain Power bill. But right now, we've been told that heat pumps wouldn't be effective in the building because it's still too leaky still. So that's where we're at. And that's what we're looking at.
So in essence, you want $1,000 increase.
Exactly. Yeah. And if you have any more questions about work that's planned and work that's being completed and where we're at in terms of what's left over from the capital campaign, I did a sort of a bullet list on that. I've given it to Morgan. And I can also, Morgan, send that to you all by email.
Yeah.
So you can distribute it.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions?
We have someone inspecting the building for fire codes, like that alarms and stuff expired. Yeah, that would be the Vermont League of Cities and Towns that does that. It's because we're covered through the town's insurance. You bill us for that, and we pay you for it, but we're covered. The whole building is covered through the Vermont League of Cities and Towns insurance.
And do you have anybody in general that just does some general repairs for you? Since you did that a while ago.
We are now looking for another handyman because one of our board members had somebody who had done some minor work, and he's not able to do it anymore physically. So I just actually spoke with Steve Nolan because he's very skilled and he just doesn't have the time to do it. He gave me a couple of names, and then maybe reaching out to a few more people. It is definitely a need for us right now. We're having a tickets at a time finding an electrician, because the board wants them to be they have to be a master electrician. They want them to be able to get the permit from the state. And in town, the Gus Plummer doesn't qualify, or Alec doesn't want to do it, so we have to look elsewhere. But if anybody knows of anybody who's a really decent handyman who could handle the most complicated repairs on porch, because of course We have to be careful with that because we don't know how much of the support that that second balcony is taken on by the pillar and the pillar.
Did you contact Rodriguez? I think the town.
Yes, that's one of the people who's on my list to call,
Now you're saying to repair the handicap.
and you had a good result with. Yeah, that's Mary Ann Donald mentioned to me as well, I'm gonna be reaching out to him. Yeah, and I'm assuming he's insured, we have to hire somebody who's insured.
Well, so.
Yeah, you said you were. That's great, thank you, yeah, that's good, because that was one of my to-do lists for this week, is to reach out to him.
So I'm assuming, then we want to get an approval from the board, or do we want to wait for next time? For that increase.
We usually will go over it the next time of doing the lights.
So we'll take the increase and we'll be meeting in sometime in late October, I think.
Okay, yeah, thank you, and then I apologize, but I've got to go.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Hard for me to.
No, thank you for coming.
Okay, okay.
Who's here from the fire? Oh.
Thank you both.
How was your, say,
Good,
was it successful?
yes, there's one of them.
Good. So, the budget that we got put together, I haven't been voted on by the membership yet, but I don't really like to see any changes with it. So if you look down through on the 24-25 homes, it's level funded, same as last 2 years. And then to the right of that is the graphic support, so if you go down to each line item, it says where what that 29,950 is going for. All those columns add up. And as of January 1st, we did start servicing the town of Athens, so there's a line there for what Athens is paying us and what they're needing for us to. It averages out that Athens is about a fifth of the calls of Grafton, so all of their figures are a fifth of the Grafton figures to make everything fair and legit for everybody. So basically, everything is level funded from last year. Happy to answer any questions if you got any. So you're looking at the same amount last year? Yeah. Yeah. Last 2 years. Does anybody have any questions of Robin? No. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good evening. And. Ricky. Pete.
It's okay, I'm gonna hijack 5 minutes of the time.
Oh, can you
I
pass
think
this?
you want to give out the budget. Right?
Oh,
So-
yeah. I haven't, but I will. It's right here.
All right, Abby, let's get you a.
So, yeah, it's not a, this is not a setup, but, so I was appointed to, the Vermont Regional EMS Coordination Study, which is an ongoing project that started mid-year, with a report to the legislature that's, due December 1st. And I'm representing, the first response agencies in the state of Vermont. And, as we've been going around and listening to, what folks are saying about the challenges of EMS in their various areas. it occurred to me we don't have at least a quick conversation about what's going on with EMS in Grafton on a regular basis. So if it's okay, I'm just gonna grab a couple of minutes and just talk about what's sort of the state of Grafton Rescue. I put it in the annual letter that goes into the town report, but I thought it might be a worthwhile quick conversation. So if you, if you pay attention to the various news outlets around the country and within Vermont, emergency medical services is under a lot of stress in the country. You have services that are closing. Within Vermont, you have services that are trying to transition from volunteer to paid. You have challenges in terms of recruiting professionals and competition across different agencies. So basically it's a unstable patient, I guess, if I was writing a patient care report. Fortunately for us, we don't have those issues. So the couple of challenges that we do have within Grafton, which we talk about within our squad pretty regularly, is we don't lack for number of people. What we lack for right now is level of people. So we are an advanced level provider within the state licensing scheme, which means that we can do some advanced life support things that other providers cannot do. About 10% of our calls require that level of care or getting that level of care right now. And currently we only have 2 folks that are licensed at that level. So, we talk about it within the squad, making sure that we have some plans or at least keep people motivated to move on to that. But again, it's a stressor within providing care within the community. That would be one that within a couple of years, when I don't get up in the middle of the night to go to Paul or Rachel, that would be an issue, but we're working on that. The other potential stress that we have is our primary ambulance service. So even though that we Grafton don't have a challenge, Golden Cross, which is our primary ambulance service, does have some challenges. All the things I was talking about originally in terms of staffing and recruiting and retaining people, and just staffing up to the appropriate level of calls. Basically EMS calls are up, nationally, as more people are relying on us. So about 7% of the calls that we have in Grafton, where we've contracted with Golden Cross, are covered by mutual aid. That means that Golden Cross would say that they don't have an ambulance available, and the call will go to either Rescue Aid or Chester typically. Our neighbors in Saxon River and to the east of us are actually getting occasionally serviced by Walpole. So there is stress in the system, at that end. I know that they're aware of it, they're trying to work through it. But those are the 2 places where I see Grafton having, some issues that we just need to be conscious of. I put here a link. So this coordination study is inviting input from town representatives, community members, basically anybody who thinks they have something to say. I put the link into this sheet here, the town, or anybody who would like to make a comment. Folks in the audience or online who don't have access to this link can drop me an email at graftonrescue@vermonttel.net, and I will provide that to them.
They can also come to Morgan and
Perfect. We do have 2 members that are within our squad that are working their way through an EMT course. They elevate themselves from the place that they're at currently, which is a good thing. And we have 1 registered nurse in town who's actually working their way through an EMT challenge. So potentially by spring next year, we'd have 3 additional EMTs on board up from their basic license that they have currently. We absorbed, as Robbie mentioned, we both were in the same boat here. We've absorbed coverage for Athens really with no issues. I think none of us are really sure how that was all going to play out. I pulled some call statistics this morning. You can see that basically 98% of the calls in the 2 communities are getting 2 more people, which is ideal. We've covered all our calls, so the other 2% ended up having 1 person. And those might have been things that were fairly innocuous, I'm thinking, in terms of maybe a lift assist or something like that. 84% of our calls end up with 4 or more members. So we've got a pretty active crew if you call 911, there's a good chance you will have too many people as opposed to not enough. Licensing for the squad is on a 3-year cycle. We just went through a renewal and were approved. I just put this down there, just, it's never mentioned, but just so that you know, the state is enforcing background checks on our members. That's always been the case, that they asked for that to happen, but they're going to be pushing us to do this. So people when their license go through both a criminal and an abuse background check, and this will now be done on a biannual basis, so that people showing up at your door also have some level of clearance for these sorts of things. And the final bullet, just in terms of what's going on, we have our rescue vehicle is now at 15+ years, which is technically the end of the serviceable life. And we've formed a truck committee and are starting to look at options for either replacing or remounting the back end of that vehicle. You'll note from our financials, we have a pretty substantial reserve, and that most of that came from over generosity by the community who purchased the first truck, and we've added to it over the course of time. But we expect all of that will be used to make the purchase of the replacement vehicle. So that's sort of a state of the union. If anybody has any questions, otherwise I'll move into the budget. All right. So in terms of the budget, the highlights I wanted to hit were basically we've moved to, for us, the simplest way to do this is just to have a consolidated or an integrated budget. So basically the way we've done this is we've taken the cost of or our estimate of the cost of operations. We estimate what proportion of that is going to be covered by donations from the community. And then we divide the remaining expenses across the towns per capita. And per capita tends to be a pretty reliable measure in the EMS world in terms of how we're going to be called. So that seems like a fair way to do it. We're extending our fundraising activities to the Athens community, and we've upped our estimate for overall donations by about $2,000, so we're counting on that. You'll see in the budget we have a grant from the Polio Family Foundation. That money is going to be used for these EMTs I was talking about before, to equip them with jump bags and high visibility jackets, as we have for the rest of the squad through a kind of a similar grant a few years ago. We have a slight increase in medical expenses that has gone up, fairly steadily over the course of time, as you can appreciate. We're always happy to get supplies, so actually, how much they cost is usually not the issue. It's just finding a source for them and getting them. We have for our education, so we have these 3 folks going through EMP programs. The good news is the state was able to get some money to do tuition vouchers, so those classes are free to the squad, which is nice, which is why that number is being bumped up there. Last item was we decided to hire a bookkeeper and take that responsibility away from the treasurer. And I was sort of the person sort of pushing for that. Those two things are sort of a little bit at odds, because a person that you have for treasurer, you want them to be sort of an advisor in terms of, how do we raise money? How do we budget correctly? How do we control our assets? And the bookkeeping job is something that's more, mechanical. So by hiring a bookkeeper, kind of disconnects those two things, and allows the treasurer to kind of focus on the things that we want them to focus on, but also makes the position a little more attractive down the road, because the person who's going to be the treasurer doesn't have to say, well, I'd love to advise, but I really don't want to be spending, a couple hours every month doing the checks. So those are the highlights in terms of what we've done to the budget. I should have started with the punchline. So the punchline is that basically we're not asking for an increase. We're asking for level funding at the same rate that we have for the past 2 years, at $4,500. Questions?
Anybody have any questions? No.
Yeah, I had a question on the RN going to EMT and possibilities should go to, or he should go to, agency.
You know, we've had that's a good point, we've had a discussion, or two, so we're still trying to, figure that out. You know, I think people have been through, you know, thing, but maybe not in the ER environment, might have some reservation about what they've done versus that stuff, but we are discussing, so that's a possibility. What a good question.
Thank you for everything.
Any other questions?
Thank you for your support.
Go ahead.
I just say one thing about our production coming out. On the line 19, PPE equipment, there's a big negative there, because we purchased 13 sets of new turnout gear. Which would have been in the last year's fiscal year, but we've got grant money covered for it in this fiscal year, so. It'll show up next year, but it looks like a big. So if you're looking down through it, you know, what's not, that's.
All right. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. What do you like to?
Thank you. Skill the lead, grading the roads. I'm ready to head towards winter. Just hopefully get some ditching done. Get the shoulders done, we're at 35 a day. Other than that, it's not been doing inside.
Should 35 all done now?
Yeah,
Meeting now.
yeah, good. Such a pleasure to go to Champion now.
So complacent, Jackson.
Anybody have any questions on Mike? Ken, you're on there, but do you have anything?
I don't, other than second quarter tax installment, will be due November 15th.
We need the money. Yeah, you've had a lot of expenses to pay the thing, and that money's not coming.
Oh, I do want to mention that I have heard back from the auditors and they are now printing our final copy of the audit.
Okay.
Once I get the final copy, I will schedule a Zoom meeting with Fred. For the audit, came out really good.
Wait, what, you wanna give us some synopsis? What are we here? Well, we have that agreement, but I don't know if it's signed again.
It has not been signed.
No. Well, why don't you take it, the water's on the table.
Oh, yeah. So, it looks like. We don't have to have a drinking water. Plan as well, at the end of the day anyways. After they told us we had to. So it's back to just a wastewater plan. And we have another meeting next week or this week. Wednesday.
I think it's this week.
Yeah. So. That's really where we are, I mean,
Yeah. It's just
This week.
moving along at a snail's pace. And when you have a meeting with Seth and I and Morgan, we have state, federal, different departments of the state, different departments of the federal, and everybody's got different opinions. So it's not easy to navigate what they want us to do and not do. So, but we're moving along. Any other questions?
We need that motion to sign the grant agreement
We don't have the agreement.
for the that additional.
we don't have agreement.
I don't think we have the final copy, do we?
We did. I sent an email.
This is for the 90%.
I did.
I didn't see the final copy.
There was a. I'll find.
Oh, here it is. No, it's.
Mm. Okay, grant agreement. At Monday's meeting, we'll need to have a motion to approve the attached grant agreement and to appoint someone to have signing authority.
What day was that?
That was on Wednesday, the 11th. That's for the 3.9 million.
You know, the board hasn't seen it, all this stuff, so we can't deal with that now.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we'll just put it on to the next meeting.
So the deadline?
I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think there's anything.
End of September 30, 2026.
Is when they
I
awarded.
don't think there's any rush anyway,
Yeah, there's not,
we'll just do it next meeting.
there's not.
Okay.
Moving along,
Hey, Kathy has a question.
oh, good.
Sorry, if you're not doing, I know we're not doing water, but I'm gonna do the filter systems for the state.
Yes, we're still talking about that, because that has to do with the PFAS issue.
Yeah.
So that's something we're still talking about, is putting these carbon filters in everybody's house in the village. That school has one right now. That will filter out the PFAS.
But there's a problem because, one of the agencies say that PFAS is in everybody's water. So don't always worry about it, so you don't need it, so there's one group that's saying you need it, and another group state feds say you don't need it, so. I don't know what the answer is, I don't think that's, you know, we're not there to see what that point is, whether they'll do that or not. And I think that when I asked that question, and they didn't have an answer. About putting the chocolate.
It's kind of on the state.
But
Or state.
state.
That's, I'm on, has nothing to do with state regulation.
The wastewater people and the drinking water people have totally different understanding of what needs to happen.
Yeah.
That's the best way to put
Yeah,
it.
that's exactly right. Anyway, moving on, I know there was, I think you asked a question, John, about, the, short-term rentals. Well, we have a proposed ordinance here. That we'd like to move forward on. Steph, you want to explain it?
Sure. Sure, so this is a draft ordinance and it's largely based on Chester's ordinance. But basically it lays down basic minimum requirements that need to be done if you're gonna have an Airbnb. You have to meet things actually you're supposed to be doing anyways. Essentially you need to make sure your property is safe, meet certain fire safety checklists, a general health checklist. You should have smoke and carbon monoxide alarms in every room. The appliances are in good repair. You're cleaning the rooms before guests come into the rooms. There's not rodents in the rooms. One thing what I added in after Joe and I talked was there's a worry that these bigger rental units will have the septic systems will be overused. And there would be, if you have more than 8 occupants within your rental unit, you'd have to have your septic tank pumped once every 2 years as opposed to once every 4 years. There's also in this would be a registration fee. So every year you'd have to fill out this application, file it with Morgan or the town administrator basically, and you have to pay the application fee that goes along with it. And it's a different fee if you live here or if you don't live here. It's $150 per year for hosted rentals. So if you live here at the rental site, it's $150 per year. If you don't, it's $300 per year. That's the application fee. And then there's also fines associated with violations of the ordinance, which the way it's drafted right now are much lower than how they did it in Chester. Actually, it's $25 per day for the first offense, $50 per day for a second offense, $100 per day for a third offense, then $250 per day, plus a 12-month revocation of the person's ability to operate their short-term rental within Grafton for 12 months. That's a broad outline of the ordinance as it is currently drafted.
I have reviewed it and I have interpreted it said, I think the fee of $150, $300 is too low. I would like to see $300 for people who live here and $500 for them, but that's it.
I just copied, well, that's copied from Chester.
Anyone have any comments about short term or long term? Go ahead.
Well, obviously I have an interest in this. I run a VRBO single occupancy apartment above my farm in the village. And nobody's ever complained as far as I know. I'd like to know why the rate would be the same for somebody who's got, I don't know, 8 bedrooms versus somebody like me. Why do you think that's fair?
It's hosted. If it's a hosted rental, if you live at the place that you're renting out, that is, as opposed to if you don't, and most people, they're renting out an 8-bedroom rental, they don't live at the place. You know, I would.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the answer.
Sure.
The fee being, subject to size.
It's not size, it's hosted or unhosted.
Hosted means if you live there and you rent out your rooms, that's one fee. If you don't live there and you rent out the rooms, it's another fee.
Yeah.
So the hosted fee is lower than the non.
Hosted fee's higher.
And
Yeah,
the
lower,
reason we're getting a new ordinance is for the safety of people visiting the community. Is that the reason? Or is it a price grab? You know, yeah.
So what?
Or income boosting for the.
You know, I think it's a couple of reasons. One obviously is to ensure that the rental fee for whoever's renting that. And an opportunity for the town to monitor and to understand who is in business. That's all. Okay.
So the money you're generating for this application, what exactly is it for? Just to create a revenue for the town, but you're not really having an expense?
Well, it's just a fee. Well, there is an expense because you're gonna have, there's gonna be certain things the town's gonna have to do for the fire marshal. You're gonna have to make sure that the septic system is there, mortgages, gotta keep track of this thing. Yeah, there's certain expenses.
There will be an expense because the administrator will have to keep track of the paperwork. They're gonna have to make sure that the ordinance, the septic is being pumped like it's supposed to be.
But isn't that the norm of what would be under a town administrator, or you're gonna hire somebody separate?
No. If we can appoint, the way Chester did it is they appointed a short-term rental administrator, which was, I think they just used their town administrator to do it. So but it's added work on your town administrator, so there is added work involved in it.
Something like this, they can get a house enforcement.
Well, it's just like the septic tank ordinance. You know, we don't have someone we don't have a police force out there enforcing it.
There isn't gonna be a lot of work or something. If you really want to do the right.
Well, there's certain.
But with the south, the fire alarm.
Well, no, you would call the fire marshal, the fire marshal.
Good luck.
Well,
Good luck.
They're supposed to do this anyway.
Maybe for both the two, the CIP.
Under the state of Vermont, you're supposed to, this form is pulled from the state of Vermont.
Right.
So they're supposed to do that. I mean, obviously, you're gonna have to rely, just like what we do with the septic pump ordinance. We have to rely on people being good citizens.
Well, like I said.
You do, to some extent.
Something like this, that have to be enforced and a lot of it. Really, I mean. And it's a big job for someone. In a way, you have the town health officer job, I mean, it's really. I mean, some of this would probably rely on his shoulder, but the, the way that position works. It was important enforcement.
one thing is easy to enforce is this. We can look online and see if someone's renting a house out or not.
No,
That's easy.
that's easy, it's just that
And did they turn in this application?
if you're gonna. If you're saying it's for the safety of the people, that's fine. But again, make sure the fire alarms are all set, the fire extinguishers are there. This should be quite expensive. If you're gonna do it on a yearly basis.
Well, we're hoping to save it and do it.
No.
Not a chance, not a chance, not a chance.
Just the feedback of what Mary was saying, Rich, then you have experience back on about but in terms of inspections, doesn't it take more time, obviously, for bigger houses, bigger occupancy?
It's not, the way the Chester ordinance, the way this ordinance is set up, they're verifying they're doing all these things and returning this in. We're not going out and inspecting the houses. And that's not this how this is set up. That's not how check it. It's these people, when they're renting the house, they're verifying to us, they're doing all these things, they sign it, and they turn in their form.
So those fees are just kind of fixed regardless.
Yes, and if someone calls in, like say a renter goes there, I rented at this house, there were no fire alarms, the place was filthy. Then at that point, yes, the health officer or the fire warden or any member of the select board go in and check out the house. Was there a violation? Is that right?
Has that happened?
We don't have the ordinance here, so I have no idea. Obviously not.
But one thing that
We don't have that ordinance.
Good, I wondered if anyone had made a call, that was the question.
The complaints are when people come to hear.
And I'm not saying I'm against it, I just realistically. I think the whole situation hasn't changed, you're gonna do try to enforce something like this. I mean, we're talking about the same thing about the speeding and everything in town. Well, if you're not gonna, and like I said, I'm not advocating one way or another. But if you're not gonna give the sheriff department more money to enforce the speeding, then why bother?
Well, I think that's one of the things.
Well, this kind of falls, that just using that as an example, this falls underneath the same thing. And if it's just for trying to put people on notice that don't live around here, then wait $150 for the people that do live here. If this is what the motivation is, to put the people that don't live here, that own the property, to put them on notice, the people that do live here, that do contribute to the town, then waive the fee for them. And maybe instead of a $300, maybe a $500. People that are absentee.
It's a great idea.
I can understand for this policy for the health purposes and the following up and the fine, but I don't understand why you would want to charge them for the application. It's a business they're running, and it's not like any business you open up. The store doesn't have any fees that they have to pay the town. But you have to go by certain rules. I understand the ordinance, I understand the ticketing, but to actually have, you're tapping into their business. For what reason? That I don't agree with the fee that you want to charge on a yearly basis.
Well, we just go up to the town. Right.
I think one of the biggest things is that these folks register with the town, if they have an Airbnb. Because when we get complaints coming in from Morgan or a Ken, or one of the select board members, they say, well, there's problems with noise, or there's problems with too many people in the house, or there's a party, or there's traffic, they're parking on the road. We have no idea who owns that house, who's in charge of it, how many people are in there, do they have all the things that are stated in here that they should have? We have no clue. So if we can get these people registered, that's part of all this, to know what's going on. Also, you did not add in here, and I know I mentioned it, was the insurance. If you have an Airbnb, you cannot go under your homeowner's policy, you have to have a fire policy. If something happens, any kind of liability on your part, you're not gonna have it with a homeowner's policy, if they know you are renting.
The state checklist has all of the insurance. Again, that, to me, that was getting too complicated. Cause it was asking all these questions about taxes and a license. When the goal here is to have make sure that. You know, I think Sam brought it up when he was here a couple weeks ago, that, you know, do they have the fire alarms? Are these places safe and clean? That's the goal. There are, if you're gonna rent, and I know Mary probably knows this, if you're gonna rent, the state of Vermont, which you certify out most of these things already. And then if you rent through VRBO, they have insurance.
Everything is there, I think, it's totally reasonable. Except if you're not gonna force it.
That's a consultant agreement for that.
Well, I think he wouldn't have an ordinance, he wouldn't put it, might.
Well, I mean, we're in Texas, it's really not in the village or anything, but out on the back roads, I don't know how many times in the middle of snow farm. I've been out on one of these roads trying to plow, and I can tell you, when someone leaves their car on the road, I can get around, and I had it back, the whole length of Red River Road, in the middle of snow farm. And I have no idea who the vehicle belongs to, or how to get a hold of anybody, the state police isn't gonna help you. So I have to wait to plow that road when they decide to get out of bed and go move their car, and that's happened. For at least the last 4 winters, we've done that issue.
That's something actually, that's not it, that's something we can add in here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, there should be something that says, respect the local law and the 2 or 3 things that we're most concerned about. And all they're doing is making sure that their renters are aware.
We gotta have a way to contact these people. I didn't get ready these, I had a bed.
Well, yeah, that is one thing that's on here, you have to have an emergency contact that's on here, if you don't live here. That we will have at the town office.
It's become a bigger problem.
And I think that all sounds reasonable, but along with that, I think it should be health officer, fire chief, whatever.
What I did, Rich,
Should start having a conversation at how you want to.
what I did with that was I just verbatim copied what Chester had already done. Which is they had the health officer, they had the police, we don't have one. Health officer, the constable, and the members of the select board. Can all issue warnings for violations of the ordinance.
Whether it's a town health officer, fire chief, whoever you appoint to do it, can't expect you to. I mean, this will take a lot of time. For
The fees come out.
well, like I said, and that's fine, if you have some kind of enforcement piece, I can understand it. If it's just another paper shuffling exercise, then what?
There's fees involved if you violate it, yes. But again, it's only that person would only be, they're not gonna go do random inspection to somebody's house, it's not the ordinance, really. If somebody calls up a complaint, then they go out and do it.
And that's fine, but you're gonna have the person fill out the application and say, yeah, this is all in line. Then somebody should go out and let me see your fire extinguisher, let me see your.
Well, that's really what we're going to say.
It
Well, that's what
won't happen.
well, we gotta try.
It won't happen. They
Maybe,
don't have the resource.
but that's what they're supposed to do. Yes,
They wait till someone calls in a complaint.
yes, go ahead.
You said that it's easy to find out who these are based on listings online. Have you attempted to contact the host agencies to see if they would let you know who lists with this one, who lists with Airbnb, who lists with VRBO, who lists, I don't know how many
They're
others.
not gonna be able to get that information.
American Valley probably has some of their own too.
Morgan just went on VR, like if anyone got a letter, it's because she went on VRBO and found the address. Right?
So you already have a creating of it without,
Not really.
well, I think, hold on, I think that's what that is. You've got some names and addresses, right?
Right,
That's correct.
That's-
but I mean,
That's how you know where to send the letters.
correct, but it was just an exercise and fine, it
I'm
wasn't.
curious how many there are within the confines of Grafton. I think that's a reasonable
There's
question.
30, how many?
Like 35, 37. Yeah.
So I can say, you know,
It's
all the purposes of
Big consent.
So that business entity, so they must file with the Secretary of State, it is a business. they must- Oh, this, public knowledge is not that. Or snooping around,
Well, I don't
unless you read through what the Secretary.
know. That's it. It's up to the tax.
Yeah, that state checklist has a whole tax component to it too. That is not on our checklist.
I think they get a little more sympathy for the people that actually live here and try to pick up a couple of extra bucks. Versus someone that lives in wherever. And owns
Many.
30 of these things are quite innocent. I think I have a little more sympathy, I'd be a little more sympathized, I've sympathized more with the people that are local and try to pick up a couple of extra bucks on the side. If they're doing it legitimately. You know,
Yeah, but there's another element to this whole thing, and that is we're losing our community because. A lot of these homes were either single families, living or second home.
No.
So now we have second homeowners and they're renting the houses out. And it seems to be that that every time a house gets sold, not every time, but a lot of times, it all of a sudden becomes an Airbnb. And I think, and this is a problem that not only Tom Grafton is wrestling with, but the entire world was wrestling. Italy is wrestling with it, New York City is wrestling with it, all these other cities, because their housing for their people are being taken away. So you can't, because it's being bought up by out-of-staters, they pay a large amount of money, and then they rent it out. So there's, if somebody wants to buy it out, they're competing with that. I mean, Denver has, what is it, 15%?
I think they just banned, right?
Yeah, but I mean, they have,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
They just banned the short-term rentals.
yeah,
Put
New
a
York,
moratorium-
Tempting to, I heard something about it.
They put a moratorium on it.
Yeah.
And New York City has too.
yeah, New York City, said that they have to have an Airbnb, have to live there. 77% of them are now no longer able to be Airbnb. So,
There's actually two sides to that coin. They're not using any of the services, public school or anything else, so there's two sides,
well, I understand that,
you know.
but I mean, this is just,
I agree.
there's not a vote here, this is just introduce it. We would like to see comments from anybody who gives the mortgage. And this process will continue, obviously, we have to have a public hearing and have an ordinance.
This is just a draft.
This is
Yeah,
the
all
draft, there was a request by some of the members of the town to do something, so we're in the process of doing it. So we appreciate your feedback, anybody's feedback on what you think or what should not be done or what should be done.
If anybody wants to, look at a copy of the draft, just
Yeah,
let Morgan know, and we can send it, yeah.
Do you have anything on there about like taxes? I think you said that.
No.
But if someone's going delinquent on their taxes, should they actually be holding on Airbnb?
That's a good point. Those are all things, I mean, like I said, they do that.
kind of thing.
No, I think of one or two, so I would think that maybe that could be something.
I try to keep it as simple
Generic.
as possible. I didn't want to make it very complicated, so, but I mean, obviously, it's just the very beginning stages of this, so anytime that anybody has, I'm very appreciative.
Okay. Okay, we have personnel. Do you have anything to say?
Not, we can just hold off, I think. I do want to ask Mike though, I sent you those forms, this is easier than what we had before. Okay, so we get going forward, we can just use that.
We didn't get the answer.
That's what I thought, I didn't expect you, I didn't expect you to. But I just wanted to I wanted to talk to you and see if you thought they were better.
Yes.
All right, good.
Is there any other business?
Did you get the email from, Adam?
Yes, I did.
Did you want to read that in this meeting or did you?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we filled it out.
Yeah.
I partly came to kind of support, obviously, and Adam McCaffrey, by the way, I think most of them.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to add a comment to.
Yeah, I'm glad you did, because I was gonna bring it up. What they're requesting is that there be a hidden driveway sign on the south side of the bridge. This is, on Townsend Road.
Okay.
They live, next to Carol Lund and Charlie Hooker. And, they wanna have a sign that says, you know, hidden driveway. Which shouldn't be a problem. They want the speed reduced, from 40 to 35 miles an hour. And they want a speed limit sign moved further back. So that they, could slow down sooner than, because it's right in the section there where it's streets.
Yeah, it's right at Union Spike, yeah, it's just right outside 50 to 40, yeah, 40, yeah. Yeah, so it's 40 up until the bridge, right, and then it goes 50 right at Union. What else you talking about? And she's like, before, so they have the right of way through Charlie Girls. Charlie Hooker. Okay. Yeah. I try to back up when I can. If I could add just a comment to, obviously, if you've seen my, or our family's letter, and it was read in one of the Selectboard meetings, you know, we're concerned about the same thing. I mean, if it was up to me personally, I would love to see any, like, the speed in town, you know, 35 and below everywhere, kind of like what I said. I personally don't see. I know everyone has, you know, jobs to get to, but it's really concerning, especially where, you know, our house is. And we have 2 young kids. And so I don't know, personally being new to this or first time homeowners, I don't know what the process is for bringing that up. If I may too, there's just an excerpt from a report from the National Transportation Safety Board. And it kind of scared me out, I was doing my own research and it kind of freaked me out, to be honest, I don't see any kids. It says according to the European Transport Safety Council, 5% of the pedestrians struck by a vehicle at 20 miles per hour are fatally injured. This likelihood increases to 45% at 30 miles per hour and 85% at 40 miles per hour. The AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety similarly found that the average risk of severe injury to a pedestrian increased from 10% at 60 miles per hour to 25% at 23 miles per hour, 50% at 31 miles per hour, and 75% at 39 miles per hour, and 90% at 46 miles per hour. And that doesn't even take into account, you know, an adult versus a child. To me, that's pretty scary. I don't see any reason why people need to go more than 35, 40 in town, especially considering the town, the sheriff recently put that, I think you got a copy of that morning for the speeding report.
Yeah.
Funny enough, the average speed was 40. There was some spikes at 55, which is kind of freaky and busy, not highway speeds. And that report, in terms of offenses that can be ticketed basically by the sheriff's office, that was assuming 10% over, 10 miles per hour over the posted speed limit. And the sheriff I spoke with admitted that he typically will only start ticketing people after 15. So I think Pam wrote that in the letter too, where it's like in the 50 zone, people are going to be going 65 with no basically concern of being ticketed. 55 in our zone. So I don't, you know, I just want to bring that up. I want to see if we can maybe put that to the vote or something, but that's kind of what I want to add on to Pam's concern, you know, reiterate our previous concern as well.
In my opinion, you can put all the speeding signs you want.
Enforcement.
What is important? Everybody in this room here who goes on backwards towards the road does not go over 40 miles an hour. Because the cops there on a regular basis. And that's what it's gonna take to solve the problem with traffic.
Oh, I
We need more surveillance from police officers, and once the word gets out, then will slow down. You can put up 100 signs, you can move more you want. Huh?
We're gonna try to address that this
Yeah, I'm gonna try to, that's what that's, the button.
Yeah, I guess my concern is like, if that's the way to ticket people over a certain amount, and it's exponential, and like increase that you cause, as we increase, 1, 2, 3, 4 miles per hour, it increases quite quickly. So even if we reduce it to 35, and they're only gonna start ticketing at 50, I mean, that's still very concerning for us, being so close to the road and having things open, but it's not, 55, 60, or 65 and 50 zone, and especially where that placement is of the 40 to 50. People see that in the distance, they're already speeding up. And I won't point the finger at everyone, obviously, because on average, most people in town, especially, lately too, I see people going by and okay, good, they're going at least 35, 40, max. But then the odd outliers are just ripping it in a loud pickup, and that's probably why I usually noticed it. I just didn't all out, and I have some quieter electric cars in it too, but they are gonna get down.
Where does it go? Where does it go? Where does it go to 35?
I just know who they got.
Sounds.
No, I think it's closer towards like Grafton.
Where does it go from 35 to 40?
I think closer
I
near
guess
like,
from 40, that's where that's from 40 to 50.
Just have, it goes 25 to 40 to 50 downtown going to Tesla.
Where does it go from 25 to 40?
Right at the bridge is where the pond, yeah.
Grafton Ponds, then that past Lupiani's house goes to 50.
Yeah, but basically right there too. And I mean, yeah, especially the groups I've seen, they're young, they have a young, Moses is young too, there's lots of kids, there's more and more kids in the town, so I just, I'd love to see, and I think a lot of people would support it. And that's why I would like to raise that,
Well, we'll put on the agenda for next meeting about moving the signs and the speed limit.
okay,
And,
on the budgets and everything else.
and then, so the next budget meeting, we're gonna go back to police protection, okay, we'll see what happens,
Yeah, obviously get two different things, but
what the board wants to do.
I think it does have an effect, even
yeah.
lowering the speed limit does lower speed.
I mean, you, what is it, 35 on the go, like. I'm sure you get your fair.
Oh, but this is like mainly people coming down the hill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think, yeah.
Something about the young boy, 15 to, we all know who they are. They'll grow up. There's hopefully.
Kids living off the road with a truck. That people call it in. So they can come out and nail. Because they're not harassing the whole community.
No, it's, yeah.
You can go, what's in on? I'm kidding, I'm kidding.
I'm sure most people have seen all the tire marks that are running around.
There's no rule, everything's.
Right in front of people's houses, like,
Parker Hill with the dirt bikes and going down Duncan. Dirt bikes.
Any other public comment?
I do, it's Charles Bonin. Let,
The foundation has decided to code, which take responsibility for. I know you had a meeting with Bob. And I'm wondering if we have something in writing from them that confirms the arrangement. My fear is that Bob's gonna retire. A new person, whoever that may be, comes in and says, wait a minute, what is this? I know nothing about it. But if something's fine, if I get.
I can answer the question. He gave me a verbal approval, Morgan has written, we have contacted in place. The second letter went out to please give us something in writing, we will make sure that that is in writing.
My understanding is you're not gonna tear the whole thing out, but rather only gonna repair it as needed, is that correct?
No. No, we're gonna have to address
You're
the,
gonna tear the whole thing out.
well, we don't know, but it's complicated. Because you just can't go in there, it's not like putting the culvert under the road. There's people's backyards, there's all kinds of wires. And so we're gonna have to figure out where the first of all located. We're gonna have to send letters to the homeowners, explaining what it is. So this process is gonna take some time. But there's no rush to judgment here, I mean, we're not gonna, tomorrow morning, we're not gonna suddenly put in focus, so. It just does that we have who's responsible and
Exactly.
that's where it goes.
So you have a date goal for when that letter is to be signed by?
No, not at
You
this
don't
point.
have a goal for when that
No,
check
not-
mark could be
not
done?
yet.
Well, I don't think you increase the lawyers, we big enough with the lawyers.
No, we have to meet with the attorney, we have to get the surveyor, the thing. And probably,
In terms of the work, I mean, in terms of the point Don brought up about getting Wooden Foundation signature.
we'll be on him every single week until he gets it done.
Great, so what's the goal of that piece of this might actually be accomplished, you have, so you can work backwards from the date, so. Would you hope that you can sign it by Christmas, or I'm serious?
I would hope that you get the letter within the next couple of weeks.
Or,
They have a board of trustees meeting coming up.
Well, they've already approved it, so there's no reason why he can't.
Yeah, we sent a letter last week saying, give it to us now, today.
So, well, we have to, we'll walk on it, but it'll get done.
Let's send Rich down there.
Anything else, son?
Charlie Bonin had a comment.
Okay.
The speakers are not working great, so hopefully I can hear him and relay that back. Go ahead, Charlie.
Hi, thank you, Morgan. I heard Seth, and Seth, are you saying that no longer is the water system a concern for the state? Is that correct?
Yeah, what I'm saying, Charlie, is we've asked about the charcoal filter that you've asked about.
Yeah.
We specifically asked them the question, why can't there be one at your house?
Thank you.
And they told me it's because you're not a full-time resident. And then when I followed up and I said, is that because the filters don't work properly? If they're not used full-time, it's simply because he's not a full-time resident. Then they just totally changed the subject and said, well, that person was speaking out of turn and we'll have to get back to you on that. So unfortunately, that's the answer that Joe and I have gotten from these people on that issue.
Well, then I appreciate very much what you have done, because that wasn't what I was understanding that was being said. And I'm very happy that the town has taken that position, and thank you both, and thanks, Joe. I'm sorry to keep bringing this up, but my problem is with the state is they keep changing people, and there's a real issue surrounding the school. And there are monitoring wells around the school, and the standard has changed regarding PFAS. The state hasn't adopted the federal standard yet, but I'm sure they're going to do that. And that means that most of the wells surrounding the school are contaminated. I don't want to use that word, but I think that is the word, with PFAS. And I appreciate very much the town going to bat for my wife and I guess for the rest of the surrounding homes. But at this point, I don't know what to do, because the state is basically denying any coverage whatsoever as to this PFAS issue, which they say was generated by the school. And I'm not sure it's a great idea for the town to give up on this water system. Now, if that's what I heard, I'm not sure it's a great idea, because looking at this PFAS issue, there's a lot of wells in the town that could be failing.
Yeah, and what the engineers have told us is that if you place those filters at everyone's house, it takes care of the PFAS.
Right.
So that's why we're looking, because the whole putting in a drinking water system is really beyond the town's capacity, and it's way too much It's way too expensive as well.
Well,
But the filtration, putting charcoal filters is something the town could, that is something that could possibly be done. That's why we're still talking to them about that.
well, you know what? I'm not looking for the town to be responsible for this. I'm looking for the state to be responsible for this. This is what the letter that came to me in 2018 said that they would do. And Morgan can show you that letter. It's there in the files because I've agreed to send everything I get from the state over there. And all of a sudden now they're not agreeing to anything. And it's just, it's not a good issue for the town overall. This well situation. I appreciate everything that you guys are doing, very much so, and I'm glad that you're continuing to do the fight for us. Thank you.
Hey,
Just for my own curiosity, charcoal filter, they talk like a whole house filter,
No
individual filter?
that's what it sounds like. Tomorrow is the first, Wednesday is the first meeting we've had since they said to get back to us. So. It sounds like it's something that sounded fairly easy to do.
I think they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
They're talking about what I'm.
Yeah, that's what
I
it
don't
sounded
think
like
it's
to
a
me,
big
what she just said.
Yeah.
It sounded like it was very easy and inexpensive, and it sounded like
Yeah.
almost like a real solution to have a problem.
See what happens.
The state was the one, the state came down to the school to do all this testing as a pilot. Found out.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
But Charlie is right. They want to retest all the wells in town because of the change of the standards, the level standards.
You have to stand it.
And
Yeah.
if they do that, Charlie's right, there's gonna be a lot more wells that are gonna be contaminated with this PFAS. But that's something that, we're not dealing with, that's something they're going to deal with.
Right.
All right, if we have nothing else, okay, the next regular meeting is November 6th, here at 6 o'clock. And we need a motion to go into executive session.
Yeah, I'll make that.
Person